Hey everyone, I am Nathaniel Rumpelchance, and today on Prime Comments, I am going through one of the biggest batch of comments I've ever gone through. I believe it comes from 5 different videos. So let's just get right into it so this doesn't last longer than it needs to. Our first comment comes from the NES Classic, was dated, the Star Fox Racing, Metroid Prime 4 at E3, and more. Our first episode of Prime News from the past week. And the comment was by Red Wembley. He says, I want to post this so everyone can see. So feel free to pin this at the top. I owe you a huge apology for my trolling ways and just straight up being a prick. All the time. It's so easy to get caught up in all of the negativity on Twitter and YouTube, and I lack the maturity to avoid it. You work your tail off, and that's to be commended. You don't deserve any of the hate I gave you. Don't let guys like me get you down. You've got a good thing going here, so keep pressing forward and doing what you do. The hard work will pay off. Keep your head up. Again, Nathan, I'm so incredibly sorry. And to that, I say, first off, I totally accept your apology. I'm not going to even say that you needed to apologize because you are who you are. And all of you guys out there that are watching this and listening in, you are who you are, and you don't need to apologize for that. I know firsthand how hard it is to get swept up and caught up in the negativity. Now, thankfully, I'm not a negative person, so while I might dwell on things or have something to say, ultimately something negative doesn't sour my attitude towards other people. So as an example, maybe something negative happens over here, it doesn't mean I'm going to be mean to this other person over there. And I don't know if that's what you're referencing. This obviously is a bit of a personal comment. And I didn't pin the comment, but I hope having it featured in Prime Comments as our first comment shows you how much it means to me that you said this. Because for those who don't know, Red Wembley is someone who's been highly critical of me for many, many months, maybe dating back 6 or 7 months at this point, constantly tweeting back at me on Twitter or to me on Twitter about negative things about what I've said or certain news pieces that aren't even necessarily about me, but I reported on it, so he just wanted to be negative. He's commented many, many times on YouTube being rather negative, and I get a lot of remarks like this more often than I really want to admit to. And it is hard to ignore. But when people ask me, just ignore the haters, ignore all these people, I don't think they should be ignored because I think many times they're misunderstood. And this is a classic case of Red Wembley that shows why I give attention to haters, why I can't ignore them. Because I think there's a lot of misunderstanding, a lot of misconstruing out there, both about who I am, who you guys are, and what gaming is, and just being a Nintendo fan. I truly think there's a lot of misinformation being spread. And I want to make sure that people like Red Wembley aren't just forgotten about. That's why I pay attention to haters, for those that are wondering, especially after our last Prime Comments. Because they're people too. And they're not always doing it just to troll, right? I feel like there's a big difference between here's a troll who's doing it basically to have fun at my expense, and then here's someone who is hating or being negative towards me, but I think they're serious. They're not actually doing it to get a rise out of me. They're doing it because they truly feel this way at that time in that moment. And I know I've been in fights with my fiance, my children, things like that. Like I know, blood can boil and things can rise, and you might say or do things that you later regret. But I got to give props to Red Wembley as being a prime example of why I do give attention to haters. I feel aren't doing it specifically for their own personal enjoyment like a troll would be, and rather they're doing it because they actually think that way. If you guys wonder why I pay attention to them, this is why. In fact, arguably, they need more attention than people that just, praise everything I do because you guys get it, but the haters might not. So sometimes you need to give special attention to them to help them come around and see your ways, and it worked with Red Wembley. I don't know what triggered this response or apology. I don't know if it was a specific video, a specific thing I said. I have no idea. Maybe it's some self-reflecting. I have no clue, but thank you so much for this. I appreciate it. Let's move on to our next comment. The next one comes from the Star Fox Racing for Switch. Maybe legit? ? Exclamation point. And it comes from, there's actually 2 comments we're going to talk about here. First one comes from B-Ray. It says, not a huge racing game fan, but I scratch that itch through Mario Kart when I do feel like playing one. While I'm sure it has its audience, I don't think the Switch needs another racing game right now. What I really think it needs is more action RPGs. Breath of the Wild brought me in. Skyrim was good filler, but my Switch is starting to lose my interest outside of the odd indie here or there. So starting with that comment, I just want to note that you mentioned 2 action RPG style games one racing game. So your racing niche, because you're basically what I'm saying is because you're satisfied doesn't mean everyone else is. One racing game versus 2 action RPG games would suggest that actually is more prominent to get another racing game because there's already two of this one type of game, one of the other type. And we're not obviously counting indies in this. Then we have to get into Fast Neo racing. We'd have to get into things like Blossom Tales. So we're going to kind of eliminate the indies from this and just talk about the main AAA franchises out there. And I agree that we need more action RPG games in general. I don't even think this is just something exclusive to Nintendo. Games like The Witcher, games like Breath of the Wild, they come around too far and too few in between. And I feel like we just need more of them in general. Now, in terms of racing, we need more than just Mario Kart, in my opinion. I don't know if the answer is Star Fox or if it's bringing back F-Zero, maybe another Diddy Kong Racing, maybe we need another Wave Race or I don't know, Snowboard Kids or something like that. But I gotta say that Retro Studios has never made anything bad. I have no reason to doubt them. If this rumor is true, then I'm actually excited because who would have thought back in the day that Mario Kart was a good idea? No one but Nintendo. So who would have thought this Star Fox racing game is a good idea? Again, no one but Nintendo. And if it works out, we might have a direct competitor, not only with Mario Kart, set Mario Kart aside, just in the general arcadey style fun of racing games. And I'm actually excited for it. I understand if you're not and you'd rather have something else. I don't want to say I'd rather have. I want more of that too. But why do we have to settle for just Mario Kart? That's always my question when people tell me, I want more of this. We already have this. I need more of this. I already have that. Okay, you have Mario Kart. You have a racing game. But why does that have to be our only option on Switch for fun racers from Nintendo? Nintendo used to have a slew of them. Now they have one. So what's wrong with having another? Now, granted, I do want Nintendo to make another action RPG in-house. I actually was hoping that's what Retro Studios was working on, if not an action RPG, at least an RPG of some type. But we'll have to wait for more in the future. At least we still have games like Xenoblade Chronicles 2, which, again, if you're talking about action RPG, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is exactly that. It's an action RPG, even more so than Breath of the Wild is. So Nintendo actually has multiple action RPGs in their own library, whereas it's one racer right now. I think we could use some more racers. I'm going to go against your comment on that one, but I appreciate your opinion. I understand your stance. A lot of it's also personal preference. I don't know why we can have multiple action RPG games, but people think we can't have multiple racing games. It doesn't make sense to me. Moving on, Angel Reyna on this also said, I honestly don't believe in this rumor. A racing game does not take this long to build, and even if it did, this seems like something they wouldn't have Retro do, because it seems like a step down from Metroid Prime and Donkey Kong Country. But they also could have been working on more than one game. Either way, I'm neutral on the game if it ends up being real, but as of right now, I don't think it's real. It's a really, I don't know why they put a question mark at the end. I don't think it's real. Wow. But it's very interesting to say this, and I feel like I want to defer to Donnie back here. Hey, Donnie, my boy, what do you think about this rumor? I don't know what just happened. All I can say, Angel, is I don't know why you think it feels like a step down from Donkey Kong Country and Metroid. That's a personal preference thing by you not viewing Star Fox as important as those franchises. At the time that Metroid Prime was made, the top-selling Metroid game of all time only sold 2 million copies. Now, I say only because that's huge. Like, if an indie title could guarantee 2 million copies every time, that's huge. But for Nintendo, that's small potatoes. So Metroid really wasn't a massive franchise when Metroid Prime happened. Then Metroid Prime came out and sold 4 million and showed the potential that Metroid could reach, twice as big of an audience as it was. Star Fox, if you look at the sales of it, have teetered between 1.5 and 2 million units over the years, right in the wheelhouse of Metroid. So when you say it feels like a step down from Prime, it's because Prime brought Metroid to a new relevancy. Star Fox hasn't hit that relevancy yet, so why can't Retro Studios take Star Fox from essentially the same level of relevancy that Metroid was at in terms of sales and make it more relevant? I feel like, if anything, Retro's done this before. This is a great franchise for them to pick up and do it again with. And Donkey Kong Country, I don't know. I love Donkey Kong Country. It's obviously a vastly more popular franchise than Star Fox has ever been, even dating back to when Rare was making it. But again, Donkey Kong Country was a massive departure from what Donkey Kong was. Do you remember Donkey Kong? Did you play it on the arcades or on NES? Like, Donkey Kong was not what Donkey Kong Country was. Donkey Kong Country changed up everything and brought Donkey Kong to different and newer heights. Granted, I think the original Donkey Kong was way popular, but, you're talking about an arcade classic that, just... It's really one of the foundations of Nintendo in the video game industry, but I feel like Donkey Kong Country was a more sustainable model for continuing the Donkey Kong series. And I just don't think Star Fox is really that far below a Metroid, especially, and a Donkey Kong. Donkey Kong's importance to Nintendo is higher, but yeah, I mean, Miyamoto, literally the last Star Fox game was the game Miyamoto was working on. Obviously, Nintendo had its top game developer working on Star Fox. They think Star Fox is an important IP, and they feel like, or at least Retro Studios feels like, they're onto something here to make it bigger than it's ever been. I think we just need to put our faith in Retro Studios that if this is true, that's the case. As for how much time it takes to make, none of us are in game development, but what I will say is if this is the only game, because there's that rumor on it that they were making 2 games, and one of them might have got canceled, which is why it's taken so long. But if this is the only game they've been working on, and it's taken 4 or 5 years, I don't know why you would think a racing game doesn't take that much time. That doesn't make any sense to me. If you're building a brand new game, even with an established IP, if you're building a brand new game from the ground up, you're not building upon something from before, then it's going to take a lot of time. You got to build the engine. You got to do all the modeling and all of that stuff. You got to do all the lighting. There's all of that. The programming involved, the ideas, the experimentations. It could take many, many years to get something right on that level. Now, I don't remember how long it took to make Metroid Prime back in the day, but I believe they spent 3 or 4 years on that. So when you think about that in context, it doesn't really seem that far-fetched. Again, I do think they were working on multiple games because they felt like they were hiring for multiple games, but we'll have to wait and see if that second game ever gets announced. All I know is that if this is true, I'm excited by it because I'm excited. Anytime Retro Studios says they're doing anything, I'm game, and I also like Star Fox, so why not? Moving on, the next comment comes from the Pokemon Switch floodgates are opening, and I'm barely holding on. It comes from Vomit the Soul. He had this to say: I'm not going to confirm with myself until Nintendo confirms it, but Pikachu and Eevee played huge roles in Pokemon Yellow version. You started off with Pikachu, and your rival had an Eevee, if I remember correctly. You are correct, by the way. This is turning out to be very interesting. I'm happy for it mostly because I grew up on Gens 1 through 3. I hope this leak flushes Nintendo out and forces the announcement, because we'll see soon enough. As for the Pokemon Go collab, I'm open to it. Keep an open mind. They might not just be reworking Pokemon for the better. Look at Rage 2, Witcher 3, God of War. It seems lately older games have been getting overhauls for the better. And to that, I'm just going to say I agree. I think people that are being critical of this game, that we don't even know if it's true, but if it becomes true, are afraid. I think people in general are afraid of changes. And I don't want to say they're afraid of change, but afraid of radical change. And God of War was a radical departure. The Witcher 3 was a radical departure from The Witcher 2. Breath of the Wild, a radical departure from Skyward Sword, of all things. So I feel like until we see it, no one's going to believe it. Once we see it, it might put some people's fears to rest, or it might raise more concerns. I don't know. But I have enough faith in Game Freak and the Pokemon Company to do this. They've been waiting to do probably something revolutionary like this for a while, and now they have the balls to try it. So let's see what happens. Let's not write it off until it happens. I completely agree with your comment. Let's move on, shall we? Our next comment, or I should say series of comments, because I actually responded to this person, but I wanted to draw more light to it just based on where the conversation ended, and because I think it's important to continue conversations like this. It comes from The Tropical Freeze is dominating in Japan, Mario Tennis demo details, and more. Our second Prime news of the week. And this is by Mac the Knife. He says, if this is worth the price, then all of them have been worth the price too. There is no consistency with you. It's all about just an individual feeling of worth to you. I feel all prices are just fine. All these flip-flopping opinions are killing me. You can't set your own opinion of value and push it on everyone else. It's getting tiring. Then I responded to him and I said, All of what is worth the price. Every Wii U port, literally anything of value to someone, is entirely based on individual feeling of value. There is no such thing as objective value of worth. It's all based on personal feelings and preferences. See, this is where I don't get what you're saying. So someone has an opinion on something. Then later, that person learns more information about that something. Is that person then not allowed to change their opinion? Is information not allowed to sway things? I say this quite clearly in the video I felt. I thought one way, new information came to light, and thus my opinion changed. I don't really know what else you expect. There is no set standard of value. So what you're saying is, I'm not allowed to have an opinion, and then state that opinion, and then have that opinion change over time when new information becomes available. This seems rather silly, if I am being honest. I am not forcing people to spend money nor not spend money. What I am doing is being honest, unless you'd rather I not have a voice of my own and just regurgitate information. I understand what you really want is for me to have an opinion and have it never change. But that would mean I am closed off to the idea of new information changing my mind. That's not something I adhere to. Then Mac and I responded with this. You can try to justify it all you want. I'm tired of hearing you complain every video about what you think is $60 is worth. Nintendo should call you when they have a new port so that you can break down the content and set the value for it. It's getting ridiculous. Then I responded, I honestly don't know what you expect of me. I'm just being who I am, saying what I think and feel. I'm not sure what more you really want. I am even thinking back on things I have said, and I have been consistent in that I don't think Kirby Star Allies should have been $60. That I don't think Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze is worth $60 to anyone who bought it on Wii U. But if you didn't get it, the game is so good it's worth that price of entry for new players. I can't even remember when I flip-flopped on the price of something like this until this game. And by the way, the game we're talking about is Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition. And even then, I don't plan to buy it anytime soon because I still have experienced 95% of this content already. However, the value proposition has improved a bit more than I expected it to, and current pricing to get the old stuff is still a bit high. However, since you're saying I do this a lot, can you give me some examples? Because I can't really recall any beyond this game, but it's possible they exist. My memory isn't what it used to be. I don't even talk about the value of the game in every single video. Something tells me there is one particular video that made you go sour on me, and now everything I say annoys you. I've been talking about values of games for over a year. This isn't new. I don't really know what I'm even justifying here. I just can't suddenly change who I am, how I think, or how I feel here. Then Mac the Knife responded with this. Look at your content for the past 4 to 6 weeks. Many videos of you complaining about port prices. I understand where you stand and why you do, but the ports aren't going to stop. It seems like multiple videos are coming where you spend too much time talking about price and breaking it down. Why you don't like it. Just look back on how much time you spent doing that. I joked a few days ago that you should make a series of it because that's how much it's been. Ultimate Keymaster decided to chime in and said, dude, you're the one with the accusations. You provide examples. Then I responded and I said, I guess, I don't know. It's mentioned for 30 seconds in a 23-minute video here. Seems like a pretty small deal in my honest opinion. But yeah, I want ports. I love ports even. Just a lack of new AAA content lately leads to a lot of port talk. That all changes come June. And then this is where everything kind of wraps up and it says, Mac the Knife responds with, it's a consistent combination of instances, both long and short over weeks. Not only 30 seconds in one 23-minute video. Look, it's whatever. I'm just getting bored of it. It's turning me off. That's all I'm saying. It's legitimate criticism. Take it how you want. And I wanted to respond to this one because it's a very interesting situation where someone's tired of me talking about a particular topic. In this case, the value of what ports should cost to the consumer. AAA ports in this case, especially of Nintendo games on Switch. And it's an interesting thing because for the most part, I've been kind of consistent about it. I've been talking about this stuff dating back to when Mario Kart 8 Deluxe came to the platform a year ago, or over a year ago at this point, all the way to today. And what I kind of get out of this, we talked about legitimate criticism, take it all you want. He's just tired of the topic. He even admits, he understands what I'm saying, why I'm saying it, what my stances are. But it's very interesting how it ended, because if you remember how this comment chain all started, it started with this entire idea that I'm flip-flopping, and then it's led to the end of he's just tired of me talking about the topic, which it felt like where it started and where it ended don't really line up with each other. And I'm not trying to insult you, Mac the Knife, if you're watching this video. I know you've been one of our most avid supporters and watchers of the content, but I'm just trying to understand where you're coming from. Your last point doesn't seem the same as the first. The first, you're accusing me of flip-flopping way too much, and that's not okay. And then when I ask you for examples of flip-flopping, you don't give any, and instead provide examples of me just talking about the pricing too much. So it feels like we've got two different issues here. On one side, at least your criticism, because you said it's legit criticism, so I'm trying to take this seriously. And the way that I see it is, issue one, I have opinions about price points that I had my mind change on one particular game, and your initial comment made it sound like I do that all the time. Your other complaint is I'm just talking about port pricing too much. Those comments are related, but they're entirely different. And I do take legit criticism seriously. And you don't have to call it legit criticism for me to know it's criticism. The reason that I responded so much to you and had this back and forth is because I am concerned about what you're talking about, because it is criticism I am taking seriously. If I am taking the time to respond to someone who is saying something negative, even if it's in a critical or positive way, it means I'm taking it seriously. And I knew that you, obviously, Mac the Knife, I assume anyway, are trying to be critical in a way that's maybe constructive, maybe saying I shouldn't talk about the topic so much. All I can tell you is the reason it's been coming up a lot the last 4 to 6 weeks is a lot of the biggest things that come out in the last 4 to 6 weeks are Bayonetta 1 and 2, Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition. We've had a slew of Wii U ports landing, and so that's kind of been the topics. The only new game to even come out in that time span is Kirby Star Allies. So when we're talking about the reason it's been a topic lately is because that's been the news lately. And until this past week, when we've got a whole bunch of rumors for E3 and everything, all of the news has either been that or Nintendo Labo. So I guess maybe I should have taught more about Labo, and I do have a video kind of sort of in the works on Labo as is. Labo takes a little bit more time because you have to build things yourself and properly test them, and there's multiple angles, with kids, without kids, blah, blah, blah. But that's neither here nor there. I hear you that you're tired of me talking about the topic. I'm a bit tired of talking about the topic, if I admit it myself. It's not something that I personally adhere to, wanting to be something I'm doing a ton of, but it's just, there's been a lot of Wii U ports releasing lately. I don't care that the Wii U ports are releasing lately. I would like more content between the Wii U ports, aka I would like them spread out more. But it feels like from June moving forward, we're going to have a hell of a lot more to talk about from E3 and just the games we already know are coming at the end of June through the middle of July. So I'm not too concerned that this is going to be an ongoing topic we're going to have here for weeks and weeks to come. But I get it. You got tired of it. I understand. I'm tired of it too. And I won't have anything to talk about, I don't think, for a while, because Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition, the next Wii U port on the way is what? Captain Toad? And Captain Toad's a long ways away from now, so I don't really have any thoughts to even bring up on that at this point. Now, beyond the fact that, by the way, Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, excellent game. If you did not get it on Wii U or 3DS, you better pick it up for 3DS or Switch, because it is fantastic. Now, beyond that, I just want to say thanks for the criticism. I hear where you're coming from. I don't agree that I'm a flip-flopper on things, outside of the fact that I do think everyone's allowed to have their opinions changed. In fact, I hope many of you out there are open to having your opinions changed. I try to be open to having mine changed. Doesn't always work. I don't always change my opinion when new information comes to light, but I try to be open to it. And in this case, with Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition, I thought it was massively overpriced before. Now I just think, you know what? It's actually nice value for what you get, especially comparative to the pricing of the older content in the moment. Anyways, let's move on to the final comment for this week. So the final comment from this week comes from the Call of Duty Black Ops 4 will not be coming to Switch. And it's actually in a response to Jay Kosei, who said, if Fortnite is coming to Switch, who cares? And then the comment I'm actually going to respond to is Trent Wembley, who responded to him and said, I actually hope Fortnite doesn't come either. It will teach these Nintendo fans that consoles need third party. I actually want the Switch to burn out at 25 million consoles so that maybe people will realize that old ports can't continue to sell systems. Bethesda can't be the only company that supports the Switch with current games. And to that I say Bethesda is not the only company. Are we missing out on the fact that NBA 2K came out or the WWE 2K came out? Are we missing out on the fact that Sega has been bringing support? Mega Man 11's on its way to the system. Not forget the Legacy collections. Again, old content. You might think it's a port, but Mega Man 11's a brand new game coming out. We had Sonic Forces come out on the platform and Sonic Mania. Now, I get what you might be thinking is that we need the Activisions of the world, the EAs of the world, Ubisoft to go all in, not just give us like Uno, Monopoly, Rayman Legends Definitive Edition, which is if it's in your port argument. Just Dance, and then Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle. Like you would like to see Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, The Division 2, in games like that, Watch Dogs and stuff like that. You'd like to see that on the platform, and I agree with you. I would like to see that stuff as well. Where I disagree is that that saying the Switch can't survive without them, or the Nintendo system can't survive without them. What Nintendo system can't survive is there's really two key factors. One of them is it can't survive without a consistent release of Nintendo games. This has been true of every platform they've ever released dating back to the NES. If there's not consistent Nintendo games coming out, then that gives less and less of a reason to pick up a platform. And that was an issue Wii U had, where Wii U did not have a consistent release of Nintendo games. They were very sporadic. Now, 3DS did not have that issue. 3DS has had a constant stream, even to this day, of Nintendo games coming out. And my thing is, if Nintendo's combining, like if they view Switch internally, I know externally they say 3DS and Switch are different, but if internally, development-wise, they consider Switch the replacement for 3DS and Wii U, that means twice the volume of Nintendo games, or around that, should be coming to Switch. So that means that a lot of the gaps will be made up for with brand new Switch games from Nintendo. Beyond that, I think what's more important for Nintendo to have success is that they continue to get the same Japanese support that 3DS was able to get. And we're already seeing some of it with games like Octopath Traveler, Super Bomberman R. These games that might have been on 3DS in the past are now on Switch. And we're going to see it in the future with new Ace Attorney games and Professor Layton. And all the stuff that helped make 3DS successful is the same things that are going to help make the Switch successful. So I think those two things, Nintendo increasing game production and Japanese companies bringing their more niche games to the platform, are what's more important for the Switch's success. Now, doesn't mean that I don't think AAA third parties are extremely important as well. Even though I argued that there are more than just Bethesda supporting the platform, I do feel like it is an area of weakness. It's been an area of weakness for Nintendo dating back to really the SNES days. The N64 is where things started to nosedive. It got worse with GameCube, way worse with Wii, although some people will point out that Wii did have Call of Duty and other games, ironically enough, that it had Call of Duty, and Switch doesn't appear to be getting at least Black Ops 4. There's a rumored Modern Warfare 2 game out there that is supposedly coming to Switch. We'll see if that happens, and maybe it just so happens that the development cycle for Black Ops 4 didn't line up to come to Switch, but Modern Warfare 2's did, and then all of a sudden next year's Call of Duty comes to Switch. I'm not going to say Call of Duty's never ever going to come to Switch, just it appears Black Ops 4 is not. But I don't think that Switch's success is really based on that. And for someone to outright like hope that Fortnite doesn't come to the platform, that Call of Duty doesn't come to the platform, so people can realize that old ports can't continue to sell systems, that it needs third-party support. I don't think anything needs third-party support. I think it's good to have it. I do think third-party support in terms of AAA is something I desire. I think I've made that very clear that I very much desire AAA third-party support, and I'm disappointed Black Ops 4 isn't coming. I'm disappointed Fortnite hasn't been, if it is coming to Switch, that it hasn't been announced it's coming to Switch yet. Maybe it's a big E3 announcement. I don't know. But it's weird to think that the only, with how much Battle Royale has blown up, the only Battle Royale game we have to look forward to on Switch is Crazy Justice. And we don't even know if Crazy Justice is good. Well, we know PUBG's pretty good. We know Fortnite's pretty good. We know Call of Duty's had a consistent, been consistently quality. So its mode, Blackout, should be good. And if it's not, that's going to be a problem when you're charging a $60 entry price for it. But I don't know. I don't know what else to tell you on that front. It feels like you just want Nintendo to fail because Nintendo didn't create the system that you wanted them to create. Because the only way Nintendo was going to guarantee third-party support was to basically make another PlayStation 4 and another Xbox One. and just slap Nintendo on it. And if that's what you want them to do, I'm sorry, Nintendo's values don't line up with you, and maybe you should go and play those other platforms instead. I firmly believe in options in the marketplace, and there are mistakes that are made, but everyone's making mistakes. And I don't think the Switch is a mistake. I don't think its power is a mistake. I don't think anything about the Switch is really a mistake outside of a few design elements that could have been a little bit better. You know, the kickstand could have been a little better. The plastic clips shouldn't have been plastic. They should have been metal on the Joy-Cons. Stuff like that, you know, including a headphone jack on the Joy-Cons or something, or at least on the charge, or on the grip, maybe making the grip able to charge the Joy-Cons as well. But, I mean, those are just some choices they made that were probably cost-cutting or something, rather than me actually having an issue with the overall design of Switch. And I just feel like what you want Nintendo to be and what they actually are don't line up, and you just have to be okay with that. They're never going to be that under system thing. And I just want to make a general comment to everyone who seems to be happy that Call of Duty is not coming to Switch. We don't need that game. Screw FPSs. It's a terrible game. It is crap tier. I'm sorry, Call of Duty is not a crap tier game. Do you guys know what a crappy game is? I actually seriously question if you know what a bad game is, if you think Call of Duty is a bad game. You might disagree with some of the microtransactions. You might not like Activision. You might hate or blame Call of Duty for being the one of the games that spurred on the yearly releases, even though FIFA, Madden, and all those sports titles have been doing it for a long, long time. Call of Duty didn't start that. The sports tier thing started that. But you can hate on Call of Duty all you want. Every year, even a bad Call of Duty game is still a pretty damn good game. And when I say bad, it's bad compared to itself. It's not bad overall. You want a bad game, go play Superman 64. Go play E.T. on the NES. Go play games that are basically unplayable. Call of Duty is not a bad game. And by the way, this is a general comment to everyone out there who has this general opinion that people who play X game are like dude bros, or like this wholly negative connotation you put towards them. Can you please shut up? Stop. We all do it as people, but stop generalizing a group of people into being something. It's something that really bothers me when, like, I know many people have said, oh, Call of Duty is for 12-year-olds. You know how many 12-year-olds I have seen actually play Call of Duty compared to adults? You know how many respectable people I know that play? I've seen lawyers that play Call of Duty. I've seen politicians who play Call of Duty. I've seen mathematicians who play Call of Duty. I've seen doctors. I've seen nurses. I've seen morticians. I have seen YouTubers, of course, that are younger and older play it. I have seen so many different professions in life play Call of Duty. Call of Duty has a broad appeal, sure, but there's a hell of a lot of adults in respectable positions playing Call of Duty because it's fun. And I feel like, as Nintendo fans, why are we criticizing something that people are having fun with? It might not be the fun you want to have, but it's the fun they want to have. As for, the reputation of, and I feel like the reputation it gets with the 12-year-old thing has to do with, like, when you voice chat and, like, this person who sounds really, really young, like a little kid, is screaming in the headset, trying to be cool. Let's be honest. Many of us out there when we were 12, I'm not saying playing Call of Duty, but I'm saying, playing video games or doing anything in life. Dude, I was a pretty annoying, 12-year-old. I was a pretty annoying 10-year-old. I was really cocky when I played games, constantly bragging to my friends when I beat them in Smash or Mario Kart, and puffing my chest out, and saying things while we're playing to annoy them and give me a mental edge, a mental advantage. And that's really all these kids are doing, except it's through voice chat. I don't honestly think... but what I'm saying is I used to be basically just like these kids, just in a different context because voice chat wasn't a thing when I was 12. So I'm just throwing it out there that a lot of us feel like, it's so annoying. We're nothing like that. Like, dude, if a 12-year-old gets their hand on a game and they're being cocky as hell and saying things to annoy you, they're winning. You're giving them the advantage. They're getting exactly what they wanted out of the situation because I was that 12-year-old kid once, and it worked for me, so it's working for them. Drown that stuff out. Take the headset off. Just play the game, and you know how you're going to shut the kid up? By beating them. You beat them, you beat them, you beat them, you beat them, and eventually they're going to stop being so cocky about it because their method of trying to win isn't working. So, yeah, like, let's just back off calling games and like being happy about a game not coming. I'm sorry, no one should ever be, even if you're not into it, you shouldn't be happy a game's not coming. Because you don't have to play it. Options are good. The more games there are to play, the better for everyone. Anyways, folks, this was an ultra-long episode of Prime Comments. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Like this video if you like it. Dislike it if you dislike it. Subscribe for more content. And I'll catch you guys in the next one.